I'm off fingers today. And then I have another one for the other side. As you go along, you'll understand what this is for. Now, I'm going to glue these in, but let me show you totally what we're going to glue in for right now. I went ahead, and really this is the part you can use anything. I had a 1/2-inch wooden dowel. I sanded a round end on it. Let me zap down. I just sanded, round taper on it. And these are going to be our locators on the mold. Made 2 of them. And you see what the function is as we go along. But I got these 2 little pieces of wood, you know, out of 1/2-inch rod, anything. Before I even used to use big marbles or ball bearings, and what I'd have to do on that is I'd have to come down in here and sort of drill a hole to set the ball bearing in, because what it is on this side of the mold, you only want half of the locator, and on it. And you'll see how it goes. But I found this works out quite well too. You just take, hey, anything, 3/8 diameter. You just want a round shape, and these are going to be locators. All right, we're going to glue them inside the mold. We're going to glue down these little 3/8 pieces, and then that's almost it for right now. Until this sets up. All right, a little wide. Actually, I just really want a little bit of glue on this. I just want this to hold for right now. I don't want it to hold up dead tight. And you'll see why. So I'm just going to put really a little bit of glue down on here to hold this. I don't want it to hold real well on these particular things. You see why a little bit. Just a little glue. I just want a glue to hold that in place. These I want to set in here. And I want them to stay. When I said glue those in, they're going to stay. Now where I'm going to put them, put one there. Put one there. Now, want to clean up the glue a little bit. Off of there, off of there. Alright, that's basically it on half the mold. I'm going to let this set up, the glue dry. Sorry, I goofed up a little bit here and then didn't realize the camera wasn't on. Alright, what do you imagine? We got the grease in and everything else. We're going to come up, we're going to pour in the cement, pour from one side, let it flow down along. And I'll show you the pouring better when we do the other side. Like I say, I really screwed up here and the camera wasn't on, wasn't recording. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to fill this side up. We're going to tap. You don't really want it above that face. We're going to tap. We want to get all of the cement down along that face down there, along our mold, so it covers this. We don't want any air trapped down there. I'm going to even go in, because I had made that pour and everything else. I'm going to just keep tapping, rocking it up and down, bouncing it to work up. You can see some of the air coming up. And alright, we'll do that, let it set up till tomorrow, and I'll show you what's the next step. You see still a little air working up. We'll see how it looks tomorrow, when we're going to flip over it and do basically the same thing from the other side. Start. It's the next day. Come back. This is nice and hard. Now, next part of this is I have to take this bottom board off. Alright, and one way to do this, well, she just lifted right off. She's a little damp. She shrunk a little bit around the edge. A little dowels came out, but that's alright too. And we got half this mold. Now what it is, these little plugs I glued down, which I wanted out, didn't come out. So let's see if we can get those out. That one out. Got that one out. Now, the next part we're going to do is we're going to put the top half, make sure it's the right one on there, and line it up just like that. Put it back together, see what the mold looks like. Now, alright, got the top board off, got half a mold here, we got these little indentations. What I'm going to do is take a little sandpaper, and on these little hole indentations, I'm going to round off that top edge a little bit. Make that a little smooth. So all I got was that indentation in there. I'll go over here. Round that edge off. Blow that out. Next thing I'm going to do is take a hunk of dowel, cut a piece to go right in there, cut a piece of dowel for there, try holding them in place, put a little glue on that. Now, what these are going to do is this is going to be the opening for when we cast in the beaded chain. Actually, I got the beaded chain. This is a 3/16 diameter, about a whole bunch of it. Actually, it's rated at 80 pounds test. Last thing we're going to do, we're going to need a way to pour. Have a cavity from the outside of this mold to inside to pour the metal. And what it is, I made up a little angle shaped block of wood, sanded it a little angle down, and basically we're just going to put it like that. Let me check to see if this all fits. Put some glue on here. Put that black down. Alright. I'm going to let it set a little bit. Got to let that glue set up a little bit. But basically, that's going to be it. We got this indentation. I'm going to oil it up. And but I got to let this glue set just a little bit. Even though that should stay there. And I don't want this piece floating up with it. So I want it to stay. So I gotta wait 15-20 minutes. You know what? Let's put the grease on it. Should hurt anything. Same thing. White lithium. I want it down in these holes to make sure it doesn't stick in these holes. Now again, what those holes are going to be, those are going to be the locators for this. After I take the two parts again, I'll be able to put those two pieces and these two indentations will line it up. Now let me get same thing as before. I'm just greasing the heck out of it. Once you make this and understand what this is really all about, it goes a lot quicker and it'll be a lot easier. You have to understand the concept of this. Alright. Now, like I say, the only part where I like to keep it fairly smooth on the grease or thin down is actually over this itself. Same thing as before. I take the frame, grease up the inside of the frame. I don't care what the inside of the frame is going to look like. Just want to make sure the cement separates from it. Alright. Next, the next part of this I'm going to take it and clamp the two pieces together so I can pour this inside. Now, this bottom material is still quite damp. And it really takes a couple of days to set up. So like I say, I'm sort of speeding this along. Once I pour this side, I'm going to let it sit a couple of days before I take it apart. And I'm going to work on the other, making the molds the other way. I really want it to set up nice and hard. And it takes time to set up. Alright, let me pour this. Let me mix up the material. Just like we poured the other side, I sort of made up a soupy mix. And I'll go ahead. Let me make sure it gets down into that hole good. And that's, I want to make sure it's in hole. Alright, same sort of thing. Let's sort of pour it from one end and sort of let it squish down. A little bit thicker than I had it before, so I'll help it squish down. Help move it along. I want to force it down to make sure that it's up against the piece real well. Should have mixed up a little bit more, but it's right up to the edge. Again, that's the Quikrete vinyl concrete patch. Now take a hammer and beat on this thing. Again, we want to work up bubbles. Try to get all of the bubbles away from the surface down there. Clamp loosen up a little. Alright. That's it. We're going to let this set. But I'm going to let it set 2-3 days to really make sure both those surfaces set up hard. And that these set up hard. 2-3 days I'll start taping again on this particular thing. Tomorrow I'm going to start on making the metal molds and how I do that. So tomorrow we'll put this away for a while, we'll change the whole setup, and we'll wait a few days to finish this up. Alright, I'm going to take the wooden frame off first. And all I do is actually it looked like the pieces just separated. Alright. But I still want to get rid of the wooden frame. Alright. Alright, clean off as much of the gunk as I can. Actually, let me wash it off with a little lacquer thinner. Just to get that grease, there's all that grease on there. I'll try getting as much, some of that off. That isn't so yucky to hold. Now, the mold's still a little soft. It really hasn't set up totally. Let's see if I can pull the dowels out. These are these little dowels. Indentation there. Indentation. Well, we have half of this dowel here, half of the dowel over on the other side. These are these two pins that when we put this back together, they'll lock in these holes. Now, I don't know. Let's see if I can get the mold out without breaking it. And screw that screw into there. Do a little tapping. It should lift it out. Got a little hairline crack in there, but basically, hey, the shape's alright. Must have been a little stretch crack in there. Alright, so that's 1/2. This is that piece we put in. So where we're going to pour the lead in. Alright. I don't like that little stress crack, but hey. do a little tapping. What it could be is, could be a little where it's overlapped all the way around here, so I want to sort of make sure. It doesn't seem like that we're free. Let's see if we can do a little tapping on here. Alright, got 2/2 out. Again, I try cleaning it. You know, let me zoom you in. We got these 2/2. I'm really going to let this set up now, because it's still damp and it's still soft. I'm going to let this set up a day or two, let it harden up better. Then I clean out as much of the grease as I can with lacquer thinner, keep this up. Then the most important thing I got to emphasize is we're going to bake this in the oven. I'm going to put it in the oven at a low temperature, and I'm going to let it set in for 5-6 hours. We want to bake this like a brick, so all the moisture is out. Once that's done, we can go ahead. We'll put the 2/2 together. Put a couple of clamps to hold them. We'll have a port to pour our lead in there, and I'll show you all that. But what we want to do is, it's damp down here in the basement. We want this thing to set up hard. I'm just going to set it away. Next Saturday, I'll deal with cleaning this up and baking this, or at least next Thursday. I'm going to let it set. You want this to harden up good. It's quite a mass of concrete. Even though it's hard to the touch, it's going to take a while for this to set up. All right. One last thing I want to show you about these concrete molds. I've already gone ahead and I had this in my wife's oven for around 3 hours, 4 hours at around 200 degrees. Really want to dry this out. I'm going to go put it in. Before I pour it, I'm going to go put it back in the oven and heat this thing up. I want this thing nice and warm, around 200 degrees. Before I pour it, I want to make sure all the moisture's out. The other thing you do, if you notice, is all black through here. I went ahead and I took some pine, or even some, from a pine tree, wood. You burn it, and you just let it smolder, and that black soot, you want to cover the inside of this, both sides, with the soot. And what it is that'll stop it from sticking, and it's a good release agent. It won't interfere with what the mold looks like, but do it once. It makes it releasing it a lot easier out of the mold. All right. Let me go put these on, put it back in the oven, bake it, and we'll get on with the pour. Before we get on with the pour, let me tell you about the equipment that I'm using. Bought this unit from McMaster-Carr. Now actually, when you buy from McMaster-Carr, there's an aluminum stand that comes out around this point. So you only really have around that height to pour it in between. I made up this little thing and bolted this on higher, so I have a lot more distance in here. I can pour bigger things in here, fit bigger things in here. If not, if it was only that height, you really couldn't get in there too well. It's alright, McMaster-Carr, I'll tell you what it is. It holds around 10 pounds of lead, and works very well. It's got a thermostat on the top of it. Set the temperature till it melts. It's real good. That's one thing you're going to need. Other thing you're going to need is a spoon. And what you use the spoon for is, when you melt the lead, even pure lead, you're going to get scum at the top of this. So you're going to go in with the spoon and scoop out. I got a little tin over here. You see me while I'm pouring and going along. I'll scoop out and dump into the tin the slag that floats to the top of the lead. Alright, and then need that. The other thing you're going to need, propane torch. What it is, you can speed this along. Come on. Heat it up on the inside with the torch, you want to speed up the melt of it a little bit. All right, and then you're going to need clamps handy, because we're going to have to clamp these molds together while we're pouring. And then one last final, or two other final things you're going to need. Let me get that. All right, you're going to need a face shield. You put it this way: you spill that lead, it pops out and splatters on you. Here, you get hit in the face. You should really wear long, probably a good thing would be long gloves. I mean, a coat. Maybe I will do that. I put it on just so I'm doing it like I say I should. Pair of gloves. It would be nice if you had leather gloves. Well, I found with the cotton ones. I don't know what happened to my leather gloves. Pair of gloves. You want to be protected in case something happens with this stuff. This is hot. It's probably on 500 degrees or so. Burn the hell out of you. Alright. Waiting for the lead to melt. I'll get all the molds together. Let me tell you a little thing. What I'm going to do at the... Oh, let me show you one other thing. You know the mold we made? I made one other change. Went ahead, drilled some holes, put some screws through here, and I attached pieces of wood here. Wood are good insulators. And what that means is this is going to get quite hot. Before we pour, what I'm even going to do is I'm going to hit the mold with a torch. If you don't do that, it'll take a couple of pours for this to warm up before the lead will flow in nicely. When this is so cold, as soon as the lead hits it, the lead's going to sit up. So what you really got to do is we're going to hit this with a torch to warm it up. I have the concrete ones upstairs in the oven, and you know, to warm them up so they're not cold and to dry them out. But you want everything warm, torched and warmed up when you're going to pour. Alright, that's about it. Waiting for the lead to melt, and then we'll go. Oh, the other thing that I found that's handy to have is some wire. Small 1/16 inch diameter. The way this works is there's a little handle here. There's a weighted handle, and it goes down into a plunger, and a rod goes down into a hole in the bottom that stops the lead from coming out. That'll get blocked up with slag and all that. So you'd like to have a wire around, so if it starts just continually dripping on it, you can go in and clean that hole out and clean the slag out of there so it'll seal good and stop the lead from dripping out while you're in between the pours. Alright, that's about it for now. One other main safety item I didn't talk about is where to do this pouring. Right now I'm in my basement. I don't pour in my basement. I pour outside. I'm doing it here just because I'm taping, but the other reason is you can't see it, but right above I got a 30-inch heavy exhaust fan. You'll hear it going when I start to pour. Pouring lead, you're breathing in the fumes, you're breathing in lead. They're bad. You should always do it in a well-ventilated area. Wear a breathing device, and you know, hey, this is lead. Lead will get into your system and all that. You don't really want to do it inside the house unless you have a very good exhaust system. For the simple reason, lead will accumulate in here, and hey, it's the fine fumes, the dust. Hey, the kids could breathe it in or get it on their hands and all that. You don't want that. So like I say, well ventilated. Like I say, this is a big exhaust fan. I'll be wearing this while I'm pouring. Wearing a coat, gloves, face shield, well protected. You know, man, you don't want to get burned. Be very careful with this. It's very hot. Watch you don't touch this. I zapped it a little bit this morning. Not thinking, dummy me, put my hand on top. It's very hot. 500, it'll burn you quick. I've been burned. Watch yourself. Be very cautious when you do this. All right.